Hi, everybody. Good evening. And thank you really and truly from the bottom of our hearts that you made time this evening to come to our fabulous McCracken County Library and to just spend a little bit of time learning about the Frenchtown area of Paducah and our two reimagined and restored buildings that we have done over the last 8 years. So we appreciate it because we know you're busy. So thank you for that. We appreciate it.
I'm Chris Hutson, and first I want to also thank the library, thank Bobby Wrinkle and Brian Medlin for getting us set up here. It's an honor to be able to present this evening. 30 years of evenings upstairs. It's quite a legacy, and so we're proud to have the chance to be able to speak to the community that's Frenchtown and what we learned along the way. Mm-hmm. If you will, we wanted to just start off and give a brief introduction as to why Frenchtown. How did we get to this spot? And so in 2016, we were watching some folks here in Paducah do some things that we thought were really good for the community. They were bold, brave. You had the Coke plant and the Musselman family taking that on and doing some really important things for us. You had Andy Carlos in Midtown Market taking the old Myrick's marketplace and turning it into something that, you know, today I don't know what we would do without those spaces. Mm-hmm. And we thought, you know, maybe we could get into that stream as well. We've always appreciated older buildings. We've looked at them for a long time. My joke was always that I love historic preservation. I love historic restoration when it's someone else's money. And yet, you know, there was something that was calling to us. And so if you'll allow, we were actually slated to have a building downtown. We were looking at a building on Market House Square. My office is downtown. I'm privileged to be able to practice in the old National Bank building. You talk about beautiful space and how you can take and reimagine a place that was once a bank and turn it into a law office. And so we thought we wanted to be downtown. We thought we knew we should be downtown. And that didn't work out. As things happened, that just did not work out. So one day, we're driving down Jefferson Street, and I don't know if you have looked at this building over the years. It's at the corner of North 11th and Jefferson Street. And I stopped and looked at it, and then I mentioned it to Jenny, and she said, you know, I stopped and looked at it too. Okay, we were right on. We had just lost the building downtown, the one that we thought we really wanted to be in on Market House Square.
And I was having a fabulous pout about it. So.
Fabulous pout. Yeah, that's nicely said. And and so we were in a period of rehabilitation.
There you go.
If you will. And so we decided, well, let's just stop by there. And we were so concerned that someone might see what we were doing and then try to get this building that we kind of got at it in a very quiet way. Yeah. So this is the way it looked in August of 2016. And you may remember it as looking just like that. It was rough.
Yeah.
But look at it.
But charming. Rough but charming.
You know, it sits at that angle on the corner.
Yeah.
And there was just something about it. And so here is the, how do you describe it?
Well, it is so charming, even in its disarray and its broken up parking lot and its janky little mailbox and weeds everywhere. It just had this appeal to it. And he had mentioned we looked at the building. Well, I looked at it probably when I was in my 20s. I remember.
That was about 3 years ago.
Oh yeah, or a long time ago, when you can't afford to do what we've done when you're just starting out. But I remember plastering my like this, looking in that building and thinking, this is so cute, but it's so small. And then I got back in my car and drove off, and 30-something years later,
you have the fabulous spout.
And there it is. No, that was my disguise. No joke. I was wearing a hat and glasses because I thought, I don't want anybody to see us acting like we're looking at this building. So that was my incognito outfit.
So that's the way it looked in August of 2016, and just we'll go through the process because it was the process of restoration proved to be more than just bringing a building back into shape. It also helped us understand community and what this place had been and what it meant, and just gave us a good look at the history of Paducah over the last 100 years. So this is the way it looked, and then here it is now. And I asked Jenny to kind of recreate that photo. She didn't have the hat, and the pout's gone away, but that's Frenchtown Station now. That's the building as it looks at this point. So just another shot at it, and I want you all look at the bottom of the building and the brick at the bottom. We're kind of going to give you a little quiz here in a little while, but you'll see that this place has been painted many times. And there's a little bit of paint at the bottom that we did our very best to try to save. So the interesting thing about restoration and preservation is sometimes you learn things about the building or the property that a legal title search will not necessarily reveal to you. So out there with paint scrapers in hand, you can learn things about this place. This dignified little building has been all kinds of colors. It was pink at one time.
You all remember that, right? Yeah.
So help me, pink, Jane, pink. And
so that was its post. Are you ready to say what it was?
Yeah.
Okay. It was when it was Merle Norman. That was its post filling station days.
So.
But I mean, honestly, look at that. It was. It needed a whole lot of love, that is for sure. But it had great bones, so.
But it had great bones, and then we learned about its architecture, and we're sitting here thinking, okay, this little space, it's got gabled parapets with these wonderful inserts. Jenny taught this to me. Go ahead with it.
Well, so the planters that you see are called, they're faux bois planters, which is French for fake wood or bark, and they, sadly, we don't have pictures of it as a filling station of all things, but as far back as we can find pictures of it, those planters have been there, and the brackets are cemented on, so that's all original. And so if you'll look on either side of the door and then down there on the corner and all the way down and on the sides of the building, those are these. That filling station had 7 lanterns. And those long windows, they open up, they're on casement, they're casement windows, but they open up like French doors. And so, but these are just gorgeous. And 7 of them on a filling station. It's superb. Because, and he'll get into that in a second, but isn't that something? Look at that.
So there's the faux bois planter, and then again the close-up of the brick, and we were just taken by the beauty of the place. And one time someone said, "Well, are you going to paint it?" We said, "No. There is no way we're going to paint this. This place is too special, and we want to show its personalities over the course of the years." So again, you're seeing the colors there at the bottom. Just keep those in mind for the question that's going to come here in a second. Now, this is an old photo. This is one of the older photos we could find. But what it reflects is that slate roof, a slate roof on a filling station.
And dormers.
And of course the chimney.
And the chimney.
But unfortunately, sometime around 2000, we were told dormers came off, slate roof went away, chimney taken down.
Well, it was on the PVA card. It was, it said roof in poor condition. And so, and even this is another thing that we found out when it was being inspected for us to open it as a store. I think Greg Cherry, I can't remember who it was, but they said this building had been on the condemnation list at one time.
What does condemnation mean?
Good question, Jane. That means it was slated to be torn down.
That's sad.
It
Yeah,
is.
that was sad.
It wouldn't
Would have
that
been
be
sad.
sad? But I think taking the slate off and the dormers off probably was the cheapest way to save it, and I appreciate that it was saved. So
here's the story of, why did it have all these great elements, these architectural elements. We knew it was a filling station, and we started researching filling stations in the 20s, and that's a time where automobiles are becoming more prevalent, and entrepreneurs saw an opportunity to have filling stations. And so in 1930, it was Ray Black, the Ray Black, who designed and built this. This was his third, according to Chris Black.
well, and Bill Black
And
Jr.
Bill Black Jr., actually before Chris, told us that this was the third design and build. We really hoped at one point in time that Chris was going to come walking up with the plans under his arm. That never happened. But you think about where this is. If you know Paducah, on 11th Street in Jefferson. So from 11th to the river, you've got industry and business. In 1930, from 11th on away from the river, you've got the finest neighborhood in Paducah at the time, Jefferson Street and Jefferson Boulevard. So in our view, this was built probably to assimilate a filling station into a neighborhood. It's an English cottage that's designed to fit right in. And so there it sits at that angle with its lanterns and the dormers at the time and the half moon windows and gabled parapets and all the best of a little 20 by 28 filling station.
And that pole with a little cap on it, that was the sign pole. And it was very tall, and sadly, the city, they would not allow us to put our sign on it because it hadn't been grandfathered in by the previous owners leaving a sign hanging there. So they wouldn't let us use it. But so we cut it down so it wouldn't look like a big sailboat mast, and we put that iron cap on it. But we want to play by the rules, so we did.
That's some narrative that I'm going to just use, but it gives the backstory, but it also gives us a chance to give kudos to the McCracken County Library again, because of the resources they have here. We learned that Richard Gordon was prominent in Paducah in the 20s and 30s. He came here as part of Gulf Oil Corporation, and Luther Carson, of all people, said, hey, you need to get away from Gulf and you need to start your own business. And so, and we learned all this by listening to audio from this library, from an interview of Mr. Gordon in 1978 when he was 91 years old. And Mr. Gordon, with Luther Carson on his board of directors, established Three Rivers Oil Corporation, and he leased the building and began operation in 1931. Our research shows that he had a couple of other stations in Paducah as well. But the really cool thing was, he explained during this interview, this 91-year-old talking about why he took a chance. And he said, well, there are two sides to a coin, and I choose to see the shiny side. There are 3,000 cars in McCracken County at that time, and I intend to fill the tanks of each one of them. And so that, we thought, hey, we like that idea of being the shiny side, so let's try to do that with this space. And so found that plat. Now, you can kind of figure out, there's this little station with the angle. We'll talk about Slim's in a little while, but Slim's is over here to the right.
Where it says Rest, R-E-S-T, that's the
R-E-S-T.
restaurant, and that's the house that was attached to it.
You'll also see GTS over there with the 3 circles, gas tanks. But the good news is they are removed and gone. I was planting a magnolia tree there one time, and I hit something. I thought, don't tell me it's the tank. It was the concrete that had been folded in when they took the tanks out. But had a little moment there where, I don't want those tanks around. So there's the red and yellow again. Just a cool picture, though. I mean, that was before restoration. Let me see. So does anyone have any clue about why you would see red and yellow paint at the bottom of the building? And you can see, I mean, and we traced it. When we started scraping a little bit away, it goes all the way across the front.
The whole front.
The whole front. Yellow and red, and it even goes around the side as well.
I'll give you a hint. It's major leaded. It's lead paint, so it's been around for a very, very long time, that red and gold stripe. Which gas company uses red and yellow? Shell. That's right.
So in 1936, very tragically, Richard Gordon's wife was murdered. That was a lead story in the Chicago Tribune. And shortly thereafter, Three Rivers Oil leased to Shell Oil Corporation. And in the process of, you want to talk about that one? In the process of restoration, we had an attic space in this station, and we were really hoping we were going to find some treasures up there, and we did. It was pretty small, but we found one, and so I mean, and it was in. Well, you can tell it's pristine. It would, no doubt, had been put up there probably sometime in 1937. Because we also found that's just one ledger from Three Rivers Oil Corporation. They continued to, they actually transitioned to Shell, but they shoved all of the Three Rivers Oil Corporation ledgers up into this attic space.
Yeah.
And
everything up there was pre-flood.
Pre-flood.
It was all, but it was earlier than 1936. So that particular page from the ledger is from December 27th, 1932. And Nagel and Meyer bought gas that day, a Paxton bought gas that day, a Schmidt bought gas that day, and
they're all going from downtown, and they're stopping on their way out.
Yeah.
And then this was a Shell giveaway. Our research showed that Shell was giving these away, and there was an effort to try to conserve gas. And so the flags here mean
during World War II.
Leading up to. Actually, there was, I think, some little bit of an oil crisis, and so it meant yield the way. Meaning, if you put this on your license plate, you were going to be traveling at a slower rate of speed to conserve gas, and so just go on around. That's what Shell would give away. So that's what we found upstairs, along with some really awesome whiskey boxes.
Flip your switcher, because that's.
Oh yeah, there. Oh yeah, it was really dirty up there. That's the old ceiling that we took out. We took it out so you could see the high-pitched roof and really a cathedral look inside this little building. And that's just some of the ledgers we're pulling out. And then there's the whiskey boxes.
So that's what we have framed. And when we brought them down, they were covered with soot. And so I was wiping it off to see what it said, and the box collapsed, and I thought, well, we'll just frame them. But who knew that Paducah, and now since I've spoken with someone in the audience, had a whiskey company, the Friedman Kyler Whiskey Company, established in 1888.
Oh.
And so those boxes were up in an attic for some reason.
It became
no bottles, but
no bottles, but it became, Friedman Kyler was one of the largest whiskey distributors in the country, operating from 1888 until around, just before Prohibition. We found there's a Brook Hill, that was their
special.
That was their special whiskey, or their flagship whiskey, and so I guess the gas business was pretty good because they had Brook Hill along with King Leo and
Crescent.
And Crescent, yeah. Okay. So we were happy to find that. So restoration, Started in earnest, the winter of 2016. We did as much grunt work as we could do.
Yeah.
That was the fun part. We'd go, we're both doing our thing in the daytime. At night, we'd go and work.
But Ray Black and Sons did the work. And that was very special because of the connection of the builder.
Yeah.
So.
Just, a garden on the side where the gas tanks used to be. And then, let's see. So, you want that one?
Yes. So this courtyard is that old parking spot where I was incognito. And so we knew, because the inside of our building is how many square feet?
560.
560 square feet. So we knew we had to expand on the outside. So we had the fence installed, and the garden pieces are in the courtyard now. We call that our courtyard.
How high did the water get in 1937?
Great question. Yes, sir. My dad is 95 years old, and he lived not too far from this area. And he said, you see the top of the door frame? On the opposite side, there's an iron lintel that's holding up a big span of brick wall. And my dad said the water was up to that iron lintel in this building. So there's Chris working on the inside, and you see there was gravel in that part of the building. So we had, it was pretty much a shell, not a play on words, but it was a shell of a building.
Yeah.
And then that's how it looks now. Now, he had mentioned we took the ceiling down on the left-hand side. This is the service bay. This is where the cars would pull in. And you see the garage door, but that actually, when it was a filling station, it had carriage doors on it. And then it was replaced with a plate glass window and wooden, just like wooden paneling. But we did come here, sweetheart. We did the garage door. The ceiling was already down on this side, so we were able to see how beautiful it was.
Yeah.
And then we made the decision to take it down on the opposite side. Okay.
Now, across 11th Street, isn't there another small building?
Yes, that was a spur. Yeah.
I thought you were going to give it to me.
Well, it's not available to get, but it is a darling little building, isn't it?
I saw it and it looked like
Yeah.
it was like
Yes, it's so cute. It sure is. Got a lot of charm, for sure.
And just more work, but just shows the rafters and what you can do with space. And we left the brick walls inside pretty much as is, except we thoroughly cleaned them 3 and 4 times, washed them down,
And then we
again, and then we coated them probably 3 times to just.
Yeah, the way
But-
Chris Black, he gave us our marching orders on that.
Yep.
Because brick needs to breathe, and it needs to, be. You don't want to do anything to make it deteriorate, the brick and the mortar.
So anyway, old service bays are cool. They are pretty cool, actually. Who knew that once upon a time, some kind of car was in that space,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's got another day with other things in it. But and we enjoyed using this. It's a very functional garage door. It lets in a lot of light, but if we need to move something in or out, we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, why Frenchtown?
Mm-hmm.
And that we had an idea. We had recalled that there was a Frenchtown community in Paducah, but we were not going to go anywhere close to saying this is Frenchtown unless we could find at least three independent sources. And again, using the library as a great resource, that kind of got us started. Mm-hmm. Nathan Blake Lynn had written an article on LaBelle Avenue, close to the Coke plant, talked about the French, and that set us in motion on our research. So, just a quick, there is no set boundary. However, this is a newspaper from the early 1900s, and the police officers had their beats. and there was a Frenchtown beat. And the great thing about it was this gave us the parameters of Frenchtown from North 9th to North 13th, from Jefferson north to Trimble Street. And that's what Officer Julian Friant was going to be taking care of on that particular day. So we felt really good. We felt comforted by the fact that, okay, here's a very clear description. Here's an article from the Paducah Sun-Democrat from 1966 talking about Frenchtown being established in the pioneer days, which we've understood to be around in the 1830s. The Miami were the allies of the French who had a settlement in Paducah from the vicinity of North 10th to North 13th, known as Frenchtown in pioneer days. We're on North 11th. So we find these different sources, and it wasn't just 3, but probably 33. You know, we found time after time the 19th century papers were full of references to Frenchtown, and they even continued into 1902, the Paducah Daily Sun. And I love the article, and I know it's hard to read, but what it says was that a taxpayer had called to complain that they were playing baseball on a Sunday on the Frenchtown grounds. And
Naughty.
just love the reference to Frenchtown there. I don't know where those grounds are, but a taxpayer was really mad that they were playing baseball on Sunday.
On the Lord's Day, yeah.
You know, we have a lot of great little communities or sections of town, the little towns as they've been called in this article by Bill Powell, 1963. We listed just a few of them. Jersey, Fisherville, Mechanicsburg, you know, you've probably heard all of these. Dollartown.
Rolandtown, Frogtown, Helltown. There were a lot, and mostly they didn't stick. I mean, it just sort of stopped being referred to. I mean, my dad, as I mentioned, is 95, and he said, I don't believe I've ever heard of Frenchtown. And by the time he was born in 29, pretty much people weren't using the little towns anymore.
So we put this picture, let me make sure, yeah. This is Joseph Henry Hazat, and he's actually mentioned back in this article as one of the settlers of Frenchtown. And one of the first settlers of Frenchtown. And he built a grocery store at 11th and Broadway, so essentially on the same block as Frenchtown. Mm-hmm. And that gave us even more comfort that, okay, here is one of the original French settlers opening a grocery store
on our street, on our block.
Just a rock's throw away from where we're located. And so here's Mr. Hazat. We were happy to find a picture, and we thought, well, that's interesting. So there's a Frenchman for you.
And the article, we did a little research on him, and he had one of the largest collections of French books in the whole area. I mean, like the big area. So he really brought the French into Paducah. What do you think about that?
That's just for fun. Because Frenchtown really, we lost references to it in our research around the 1920s. It was in the 60s, you started seeing articles saying, well, we remember these old neighborhoods, but at least in 1927, the Frenchtown Flash was a menace to society in the wrestling ring. And so we put in quotes what the article says. The other case will find Alfonso Simpson, the Frenchtown Flash, and John Boston operating on each other for 6 minutes.
Yeah. And in that article it says, no offense to Mr. Cobb. When that book, speaking of operations, when they use that word operating on each other in that article throughout about wrestling. And no offense to Mr. Cobb.
Ginny said, well, what if someone asks if that's the Frenchtown Flash? And I said, well, the answer would be as far as you know it is. So.
We don't know. Okay. But the story is true about
Yeah.
him. Okay.
So this is June 2017. Chris Black, et al. Had done their thing, and we're ready to go. And July 27 of 2017 is when Frenchtown Station opened. So.
And you see that little baby? That's her right there. That's Jane.
She's waving.
Well, we've had 4 more grandkids since we opened that, so a lot's changed.
it was a good day, and it just shows. I mean, again, a filling station, 1930, and then almost 90 years later, and it's opening up as this space where Ginny could.
Well, so just a little backstory. I grew up in my mom's antique shop. Miss Joy knows all about that. But so I kind of always had in my mind, and my brother's back there, he did too. So, but I had in my mind, I would love to have an antique shop at some point. But you can't do something like this when you're young. You just have to be patient. So this was a dream realized, but it turns out I don't believe I was personally dreaming big enough because it's become something more than what I thought it would be. So. And
that's a theme we definitely want to get on and toward the end of the conversation end on, because it's a great building. It holds, in my estimation, a unique and wonderful shop, but the impact that it has had is we could not have anticipated it. We did not plan for it, but it's been a wonderful thing, and I think that what it does is it speaks to community, but also speaks to the preservation of buildings and how when you reimagine space and restore that space, it can lead to wonderful things for the community. So we refer to it as the Frenchtown block because there's a second building that we're going to talk about now.
That was not on our radar, by the way.
Definitely not. And it's a pretty unique story, and I think everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of you all probably have some experiences with Slims.
If you know Slims or have eaten at Slims or anything, raise your hand. Wow, look at that.
This is, okay, well, Here we go. This is going to be, you're going to enjoy this trip.
It's going to blow your mind for a split second, but then we'll get you back around.
Because we got this photograph from Barbara Bean, who was
Harned Bean,
who was the daughter-in-law
of Slim and Annie.
And it was she was such an amazing resource of information, and we got to know her as we were restoring Slims, and she shared that photo. But there's Slim and Annie. Slim and his two boys built by hand the Slim's Barbecue restaurant on North 11th Street. It is, as you know, strictly out of the southern vernacular of a barbecue joint. It's cement block. It's got the awning there, and that's the way it looked. We're not sure. And there's another color of Frenchtown, by the way. There's
gold.
It's gold. Yeah,
Who knows?
But
had a neon sign.
Yeah, neon sign. We know where it is. We wish someone would maybe come back to us on that. But there's a neon sign there and some other signage. You can also see. Well, if you'll look at that. We've learned that it served students from the old PJC to Augusta Tillman High School back in the day.
Railroad, the Magnavox, Lilly Paper Cup Factory. They stayed open until 2 o'clock in the morning to make sure they were serving the people that were working shift work.
And then they catch them again at 6 a.m. So they
worked themselves into the ground.
Hard workers.
Yes.
So that's the way it looked in October 2017, right after Frenchtown was opened. And we looked at it. I mean, it was there. We didn't know what was going to happen to it. You see what's behind it. It's actually attached to it.
Yeah. Yes. So the far part of that building, this part, was just a facade. And it went around the corner ever so little, and then there was the house right there. And the house, there was an iron cable that connected the house to that false front. And I mean, literally, it was holding that building to that house. Yeah.
So
there you go.
Welcome to Slim's.
Welcome in. What'd you think?
The picture on the left is after it was cleaned up.
But what you need back up a bit.
Okay.
So we didn't own this, of course, and we saw yellow tape all around that property in the spring. And
Spring
yeah,
of 20.
right after we
18.
opened Frenchtown in July, by February or March, that was condemned. And we felt
We
mixed
felt
emotions about it. I thought, I don't know if I want to do anything else. But
I think we felt obliged in some ways, because you think about
Yeah.
this, it's an iconic space. And the windows said Slim's, and we could peer in and we saw the stools and the counter, and so it was under order for demo, both the house and the building, by the city. And the city had come to know us from the restoration of the building next door, and we asked if we could have a meeting and do some due diligence and look at it. And they said, yeah, we'll give you some time. We'll give you 30 days. Mm-hmm. But they were already, they were working on it, getting ready to tear it down. They were popping the tile off to abate the asbestos tile from the space before they tore it down. The city gave us some time. They said, it's going to be open to a bid process. So, okay, that's fair. So we bid $1 for it. And if someone had bid $2, then we're out. But
you had to prove, we had to, Chris Black, they drew up plans, and so there was more to it than the money part.
Of course, after Slim's, it was John's Barbecue.
It was
That's right.
actually after Slim's, it was another family,
Yeah, I think
and they owned it for 5 years, I think, and then it was John's for a little bit.
that's right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so our son, Will, said, wouldn't it be good if you had 2 stores, 2 shops on one street as opposed to just one? And it was like, and I think I said no.
No, you didn't. I did, but you were on board.
I was all in, because this, look at the window there, and that window, and we just couldn't see it go. And he was right. Will was right. There was an opportunity there. We said, okay, buddy, you get in here, you start working. We'll see. And we got it, by the way. So $1 got this place, and so I've got all these lyrics in my head. So Jason Isbell has a song that says, "Be afraid, be very afraid, but do it anyway." And that's what we did, because there was a little bit of fear factor in that. Look at the picture on the left.
Well, the whole ceiling obviously had to come down. And you see those pretty wooden beams? They're charcoal black. And on a humid day, which we have a lot of, you can smell barbecue in there. And I always say, "Hello, Slim."
It's pretty sweet, because the original pit was in the back of that building.
Oh yeah, and so it was. But I loved that wooden ceiling, and I texted Chris Black. I said, "I just love this ceiling," and he goes, "I'll be right there." And he came. He said, "You can't do this. You've got to put a ceiling in it, or
It'll be too high.
Yeah.
So the house, though, and if you look at the left, we would have liked to have saved that house, but it looked as if it had been in a fire. It was beyond, and I think even Chris said, Chris Black said, not every space is meant to be restored or can be restored.
Well, we couldn't have afforded to, and it would have been mainly new anyways, because the ceiling caved in. We went through the floor multiple times. We fell through the floor of that house multiple times.
So the question was whether, when we took the house down, would Slim stand?
Yeah, that was a real concern.
That was the question, and so here's my defiant wife.
That was just nerves. I was so. I thought, first of all, I can't believe it's still standing, and then just, wow, look at this mess. Look at this. So
we took that false front there
Yeah.
and just made Slim's that simple, again, that vernacular of a barbecue joint in the South, squared it up. But it's open to the elements at that point. And so it was a good day because the walls didn't collapse, but we thought that was even a better day, because that's the way it looks now.
So that where it says Slim's, that's a new, just a little extra square footage, and a bathroom, because there was not a bathroom in that restaurant. People would go into that house to use the restroom.
You had to go to
Yes,
wash
sir.
your hands, go to the bathroom.
That's right.
So we needed a bathroom and a little extra space. It only has about 1,000 square feet in it, and Jane, there you
are,
again.
a little bit bigger.
A little bit older. So about almost 2 years to the day after opening Frenchtown, Open Slims, and our son Will, who you see there, is he curates it and manages the space. And as you can see, the stools are still there. The great thing is you can see that one red stool. That was the original surface, and it was, I mean, there's not much cushion there. It's hard. And Barbara told us that sometime in the 50s, Slim and Annie said, we need to put a little more padding on there. So the black is what they put on. But I mean, that's how old that is. The counter is from the 1960s. Every new beginning comes from some other beginnings in. If you know the band Semisonic, that's their philosophy for the day. You know, starts off with Will over here, and then he's in about the same spot, but now he's behind the counter and doing his thing. And again, just the stools. That alone, really, I think, if it hadn't been for those stools, I don't know how we would have felt. But seeing those and the windows outside, just, you know, this space deserves another day.
Well, speaking of the stools are a very tangible place that people, they become emotional when they go in there, especially if they're coming back to Paducah to visit. And we have had more people literally to shed tears because they are remembering having a meal with their dad or their grandfather or a friend that's no longer there.
Yep.
So I think we started to feel a whole different level of, we're so glad we saved this building, because it became this place where a person might come back and have this sweet memory, and it's still here.
I've been there on you know, certain weekends, and they'll come in and they'll pat the seat and say, this is where we sat.
Yep.
This is where my grandfather would bring me. And they either laugh or they cry.
Yeah.
But there's this emotion that comes
with
comes
food.
out.
It's got to be food related.
Yep.
I mean, they talk about, there'd be a line of people out down the sidewalk, or the car hop would be running up and down the road, and all these cars would be lined up at lunchtime. So
there it is on the left, and that's a cleaner state than when we first got it.
oh yeah, even the left-hand side, that's an improvement over what it looked like when we first got it.
You couldn't walk in there. It was packed. And then the right, just an example, with a really cool old fire engine that we're told was once one of the pull engines in Noble Park.
I don't know if that's correct.
We don't know if it's true, but we like the story if it is.
It's
Yeah.
like Matthew McConaughey says, if it ain't true, it ought to be.
You're right. Well, the person that sold it to me said it was from Noble Park back when before it was Noble Park. There was another park there. Do you know about that?
I got one of the cars.
Yes, you did.
That pool.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think that
Yeah, I think that's right.
it is. But
So
we have to be careful about
This
that.
is back where the fry cook would have been at Slim's back in the day, and it was really rough. There was a hole in the ceiling that was about as big as a whiskey barrel in that back corner. I'm looking up there, probably thinking, "What have we done?" And but anyway, that's the space now where Will's got a variety of things. There's certain unskilled labor that any of us can put into a project, and that was definitely. I'll speak for myself,
Well.
but that's the two shots.
And our famous phantom hydrangeas that people they drive to come see them. The heads on those hydrangeas are huge. They are the largest of the hydrangeas for sure, and they're overtaking the wall now.
So where that house was located is now green space, and in front of those hydrangeas is entirely green space, and we've used those for events.
Live
And we
music.
just showed that. I heard someone pick up. You see our friend Mary Hammond in that photo. So we had a book. We had a reading and a book signing.
Yeah.
And
I see some other folks in there that are back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful evening. And so, one of the things we wanted to leave with you all with, one of the things that we've learned along the way is that restoration and reimagination can also lead to collaboration and community.
Big time.
That evening, we had a variety of different folks out to contribute and to be part of the event. We had a nice.
Yeah. Did you say who?
Yeah, it was Tracy Buchanan, and Tracy
has written her book at the corner of Mercy and Peace, toward the corner of Mercy and Peace. Just a great.
Another shot of Slim's, the way it looked. Oh, by the way, if you go by now, you'll see that that barbecue is gone. But there's a reason for that.
Yeah, that was a hard call, but it had to happen.
There were a lot of folks who were very hangry.
They were hangry, and Jenny got tired of it.
It's a thing. Apparently, hangry is a thing,
Yeah.
and Will would say, "I'm sorry, we don't have barbecue. We don't sell barbecue anymore." And so we said,
why?
"Okay."
Why? We don't need another store. We wanted barbecue. And like, we don't know the
So-
first thing about barbecue.
We had a chance, again, talking about restored or reimagined space. We went to the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville. I hope you all have seen that and been there. Built as a church, wonderful venue. And we saw Lucas Nelson, Willie's boy, perform there. And one of his songs is called Start to Go. You never get too far, no matter who you are, until you start to go. And that really is what I think the message would be when you look at older buildings and forgotten spaces. You've got to start to go in order to move forward. And our point, what we've learned is that with abandoned spaces, some are iconic, some may be architecturally significant, but you've got to take those first steps, because when you're in preservation and restoration, you got to start to go. The longer you wait, the harder it's going to be. Mm-hmm. So let's get started. So wanted to show that photo because here is the front of Slim's at an event. And so what we would offer to you is that when you start to go, you do move forward with restoration and reimagination of forgotten spaces. But what we found is that you find new communities. And that was not on the radar when we got into this process. This was going to be, we've always wanted to restore a building. We love historic preservation. Let's give it a shot. But here we are finding lost communities like Frenchtown. Don't you feel more connected to a place when it has these histories and this backstory, and you can call them your own, be it Lowertown or Frenchtown, the Fountain Avenue neighborhood, a variety of spaces. And hopefully we're going to continue on that trend in Paducah. We've got the South Side to look at with some great history. So we found this lost community in Frenchtown, but we also we found new opportunities to create community with others. I mean, how many new friends and collaborators have you engaged with?
That's what I was saying in the beginning. It has exceeded our imagination. We just didn't dream big enough. At the people we would meet from all over the country. So, okay, so that slide on the left. This was from our spring fete that we had. So far we've had 3 spring fetes.
Fete?
A fete is French for festival because I'm scared of the word festival. It sounds too big to me. So fete, okay, I can do that. But so the slide on the left, those are all women in our community who are bakers, florists,
Writers.
Pardon?
Writers.
Oh gosh, yes, writers, and they all set up at our spring fete, the last one, and so I mean these are really impressive women, and they were part of what we did, and then it just draws people from other states. I mean, okay, so for instance, the woman with the dress and the hat, her name is Emily Morrow, and you all may know her. She is a writer. She and her husband are on social media as Really Very Crunchy. That's their handle. And they have 2 million followers. They are known throughout the world. And they have now a big podcast. She was on the Today Show with her book a week before that picture was taken. a person drove from Wisconsin to have her book autographed by Emily at our fete.
On the corner of Jefferson and North 11th.
But anyway, I mean, you know, it's just, that's something you just didn't dream about. But our children encouraged us to get on social media. You have to do that, Mom and Dad. You're going to have to do it, so you can promote your
Caroline, our daughter who's here, said you've got to get on social media, and we were not on social media at all.
No.
In 2016, but it's essentially like putting a message in a bottle and throwing it out into the stream, because that's what social media, primarily Instagram, has done for us.
Well, it has really caused people across the country to know about our block, and we have out-of-town people all the time. Last weekend we had 2 groups of people from, well, there they are. Those women in the left, they're from Dallas, Texas, and they came to Frenchtown and then enjoyed Paducah. So, and I helped them plan that trip several months back. This girl's from Nashville, North Carolina, Wisconsin, but this is a every week we have people from all over the country, and they absolutely love Paducah, and they always say to us, do you realize how lucky you are? Paducah is so cool, and it's just got this really great vibe about it, and you are so lucky to live here. So it just is like this wonderful treat that we get. Okay.
Wanted to give a shout out to the library again.
Oh yeah.
At the fetes we have the Brary bus, and there's, you can see Poppy there, and then just a picture of, you know, the green space in the middle there, and then you know, if you're in small business, I highly recommend child labor. Child labor is really, really helpful.
That's what those granddaughters
to make a margin. So
I will also give a shout out to Emmanuel Preschool and the Master Gardeners, because they've been part of our fetes before, and they do art with the kids, and they plant seeds and flowers with the kids, and
here's some fun.
So yes, this was pretty much a mind-blowing experience for me. So Southern Living emailed us, well, it's been three or more years ago now, and said, your block has been chosen as one of the South's best boutiques or shopping areas. And so that slide is from that. And then the top slide, that is Robbie Cabinetti, and he's been the photographer, the guy, the taller guy with the jeans. He's been the photographer for Southern Living for 25 years. And he came last year. You remember when Paducah was in Southern Living last March, and it was like this great 6-page article, and we were very fortunate to be a part of that article. And so we got to spend the day with Robbie and his assistant, and Caroline Rogers, who is the assistant editor, or the editor of the travel and leisure section of Southern Living. But again, never ever in his wildest dreams, our family's wildest dreams, did we think that was going to happen. It's just been lovely.
And so what we offer there is that, you know, restoration and reimagination can lead to things like this. It's a national publication that then draws the attention of all these folks who may not have known about Paducah. And they come here, and maybe they do come to Frenchtown, and then they go to the restaurants. I mean, you all know we're blessed with great restaurants. We've got great places to stay. We've got great places to shop. Yeah. It's a really neat community.
It is, and it's Paducah. I mean, it's just Paducah. It's.
So like I said, so if you like Field of Dreams, and that's probably my favorite baseball movie, build it and they will come. So, but truly, restore it and they will come.